Karen falsified my signature on HOA docs. She's now facing forgery charges in criminal court. Have you ever trusted a neighbor only to discover they betrayed you in the worst way? That's exactly what happened to me when Karen, the self-appointed queen of our HOA, forged my signature on official documents, thinking she could control our neighborhood unchallenged. What she didn't expect was the firestorm of consequences that would unravel her scheme and land her in criminal court. It all started in our quiet suburban cul-de-sac, where the HOA meetings were usually uneventful until Karen took over as president. With her clipboard and condescending smile, she ruled like a dictator, enforcing petty rules and pushing her own agenda. I'd always stayed out of her way, nodding politely at her rants about mailbox colors or lawn ornaments. But when she proposed a massive landscaping project that would raise our dues by thousands, I couldn't stay silent. At the next meeting, I voiced my concerns, pointing out the lack of transparency in the budget and the suspiciously cozy relationship between Karen and the chosen contractor. The room went quiet. Karen's face turned red, but she brushed me off, saying the project was already approved. I left the meeting uneasy, unaware of the lengths she'd go to silence me. Days later, I received a letter from the HOA stating I'd signed a petition supporting the landscaping project. My stomach dropped. I hadn't signed anything. I demanded to see the document, and there it was. My name, scrawled in a shaky imitation of my signature, on a petition I'd never seen. Furious, I confronted Karen at her pristine front door. She denied everything, claiming it must be a clerical error. But her smug grin told me otherwise. That's when I realized this wasn't just a mistake, it was deliberate. Karen had forged my signature to push her project through, betting I'd let it slide. She was wrong. I started digging. I requested copies of all HOA records, combing through minutes, budgets, and contracts. The more I found, the shadier it looked. The contractor was a company owned by Karen's brother-in-law, and the bids from competitors were laughably identical, down to the typos. I wasn't the only victim. Other neighbors' signatures appeared on documents they swore they'd never signed. I reached out to them quietly, and soon, a small group of us were comparing notes. That's when an unexpected ally emerged. Tom, a retired accountant who'd moved in last year. He'd been suspicious of Karen's financials for months and had kept meticulous records of her spending. His spreadsheets showed discrepancies, thousands of dollars funneled to the contractor for consulting fees before the project even started. Tom's evidence was the twist we needed, turning our case from a personal grievance into a potential fraud investigation. Armed with our findings, we took our case to the police. At first, they were skeptical. HOA disputes often sound like petty neighbor drama, but when we presented the forged documents and Tom's financial analysis, they took notice. A forensic document examiner confirmed my signature was a fake, noting the hesitant pen strokes and unnatural thickness typical of forgery. The police opened an investigation, and Karen's house of cards began to crumble. She tried to spin the narrative at the next HOA meeting, tearfully claiming she was being targeted by jealous neighbors. But her performance fell flat when the police showed up with a warrant, seizing her computer and HOA files. The room erupted in gasps as Karen's composure cracked, her voice shrill as she demanded to call her lawyer. The confrontation in court was electric. Karen sat at the defense table, her usual haughty demeanor replaced by a nervous fidgeting. The prosecutor laid out the case. Multiple counts of forgery under California Penal Code Section 470, each tied to a falsified signature, plus allegations of mail and wire fraud for rigging the contractor bids. My testimony was nerve-wracking but cathartic. I recounted the shock of seeing my name forged, the betrayal of trust, and the fight to uncover the truth. Other neighbors followed, each adding weight to the case. Tom's testimony was the knockout punch, his calm delivery of financial evidence exposing Karen's kickback scheme. The defense tried to argue lack of intent, claiming Karen's actions were a misguided attempt to benefit the community, but the judge wasn't buying it. When the forensic examiner took the stand, showing slides of Karen's clumsy forgeries, the courtroom buzzed. The evidence was undeniable. Karen's downfall was swift. The judge found her guilty on all counts, sentencing her to 2 years in prison, restitution to the HOA, and hefty fines. As she was led away, her head bowed. The courtroom felt lighter, like a storm had finally passed. The HOA was in chaos, but we elected a new board, with Tom as treasurer, vowing transparency and accountability. The landscaping project was scrapped, saving us thousands. But the real victory was Justice Karen's arrogance had been her undoing, and her forged signatures became her own signature on a criminal record. Looking back, I'm proud we stood up to Karen's tyranny. It wasn't just about stopping a bad project. It was about reclaiming our community from someone who thought she was untouchable. If you've ever faced a Karen in your life, you know how tempting it is to back down. But fighting back, even when it's hard, can change everything. What do you think? Did Karen get what she deserved? Or should she have faced harsher consequences? Share your thoughts below.